Okay, last thing I really want to do before we move on sort of to the next stage is to put my player on the grid. We filled up the rest of the functions that I created with create grid, space occupy, place chess, place bandits. The only one I've got to do is position the player. So I want the player to be positioned on the grid, but I need to know where. I need to have an X and a Y value of where the player is going to be positioned. Now this is not as easy as it looks because the computer is operating in the y-axis upside down. So if I wanted the player to be at 0, 0, the start, then that would be this position here. But I really want the player to be at the bottom. So I want 0, 0 to be at the bottom of the grid. Now, in columns, that is column 0. Okay, all of that is column 0. But unfortunately, for the y-axis, that is the largest number. So the y-axis is the row. So that's row 0, row 1, row 2. Oh, we get there. Row 2, row 3, row 4, row 5, row 6, row 7, row 8, row 9. So our 0, 0, our initial place, is actually 0 on the X, but 9 on the Y. That's going to take some getting used to. Computer screens are often upside down, and this is a common calculation. So let's go for it. Let's see if I can have a coordinate system which is 0, 0. That would be 1, 0, 2, 0. That would be 1, 1, and so forth. So we're going up in y values in that direction, and we're going up in x values in that direction. So this is where we're going to start losing the plot for those who are below Pat 6. It's going to get rather complicated. So let's try this one. So I am going to say that the grid position, and remember we're doing it backwards, y, x equals p. We're going to put the player on the grid. And I think that is pretty much all we need to do, because once we put them on the grid we need to return it. The problem is we haven't given an x and y value here. I'm going to hard code them 0, 0 so you can see what happens. So if I save that and run it, it's put all the chests on, it's put the bandits on, but it's put the P in the top left hand corner. I wanted the P to start in the bottom left hand corner. So I need to do a little bit of a changing calculation there. So to do that, I needed to have the y value of 9. So let's run that program and see if that cures it. And then we go, I've got my P in the bottom left hand corner, which is where I wanted him to start. Now, I don't want to hard code values. The 0, I think that's fine. The 9, really, what the 9 is the value of the grid 10 minus 1. So I'm going to use a value in here, size minus 1. Now the beauty of this is if I change size, it's always going to work, and we'll see that. So if I now run that program, we should get exactly the same output as before, but this time we've used a variable. So P is in the bottom left, and if my statements were correct. Let's reduce this to 4x4. And he should still be in the bottom left when we begin. And there we go, 4x4, 4 treasure chests, 3 bandits, and the player. Now the only thing I can say is that really we should probably try to put the player on before we put the chests on, because if they try to put a chest on the player location, so if I cut that out and actually do that after the grid, if it finds a player at 0, in fact what I'm trying to say is it will never put a chest or a bandit in this bottom left hand corner, because that's where the player starts. So if I run that to make sure I haven't messed up, there we go. And that's it for the time being. We've got to the point now where really, apart from a little bit of tidying up, which maybe I'll do that to begin with, we've got to the point where we've finished all of our functions and we're now in the next stage of the game, which is trying to move the character up and down, and that is quite a challenge. So in the next video what we'll do is we'll tidy this up, because we've set up the game, it's ready to go. At this point we've got all of our chests on, all of our bandits on, and our player in the starting position. The whole game has been initialized, we're ready to play the main game loop. So we'll start tidying that up in the next video.